In 1999, what happened was that we as an organization were looking for a new place to live. The site that our office building is here on. It's a piece of land that had laid fallow since 1963 when a major fire came along and burnt down what was called the Lefebvre building at that point. So we came back with this idea of really what's basically a large office building, 2 levels of underground parking, and has kind of an important component that goes on the corner, but it only has 8 living units in it.
I studied the village a lot in order to get the detailing and the understanding of this project. Building that feels like it was just part of this village for the last 100 years. We had a hand-drawn sketch of what this building looked like, plus some floor plans, and we went and met with everybody in the mayor's office. Gene Guskowski explained the floor plans and how the building worked and how we're going to get a mix of office and maybe a restaurant, and then we're going to get some apartments. And then I got up to explain the elevations, and the paper was put on the table, and the whole group of businessmen just pointed to everything. They all talked to themselves. I'm standing up front to actually do my presentation, but they wouldn't stop talking. Then the mayor says the village needed a clock tower, and you're providing a clock tower. That was the only presentation I ever did where I didn't present anything. The drawings themselves spoke for what was going to happen with this building. So this building ties in directly with the village.
We've been here now for 17 years. It's been our home, and we've been another piece in what has been an incredible renaissance of this area.
Sense of community for me is really a place where people want to live, from the structures that we've created and the surroundings that we've placed these buildings within. A cityscape right out your front door with natural areas across the street, retail by your front door, or a vibrant village down the road makes for a much better environment. When we came to designing State Street Station, we were kind of completing that sense of community and having a very busy thoroughfare that we're developing this project on. And then a quiet residential neighborhood right behind gave people a reason to cross over that intersection, to extend the vibrancy of the retail of the village into the portion of State Street Station that is the mixed-use design. One of the biggest challenges of State Street Station was blending those 3 components. The residential component to the back, these smaller 2-story homes. So when you look at that, how do you relate this larger mixed-use building to that? And then the speed of State Street and the desire for us to get them to stop, slow down, and see what we've developed in the mixed-use component of the building was a very crucial piece to the success of the project. So the way we addressed that was by designing the project to be 3 separate components. We had one face of the building on Blanchard, which is detailed and articulated more to the character of the village. You'll see the yellow brick and you'll see the stone arches, headers over the windows. You'll see some roll-lock detailing around the windows and the brick. All of this was done with the intent of assimilating to the character of the village without copying it. On State Street, the most prominent face of the building, that's got the Chase Bank in it, that's got all of the retail-focused components, and that's also on that thoroughfare, so that's designed with the most contemporary aspects of the building. So you're seeing cleaner lines on that portion of the facade. You're seeing the metal panels and the smooth stone integrated in with the darker brick. And then lastly, with 2-story structures behind the building and surrounding it as you got to the north side, we had to find a way to work the character of this building into the residential community. And that's where we decided to step the back portion of the building down, and we changed the architectural detailing again. We're using the traditional red brick detailing that is more synonymous with the residential character. The Enclave was previously the home of a manufacturing plant that really interrupted the residential character coming from North Avenue and down into the village. So when we got the opportunity to work on that project and take a previous industrial use and create a vibrant residential community to it, it was an exciting opportunity. But it was also a challenge. While the residents had an industrial use right next to them, they also didn't have 300 apartments that they were living next to. So as we worked through that challenge, we decided that breaking those buildings up into a neighborhood of buildings separated by greenway. And that was done intentionally to relate the apartment site to the roadway. So as pedestrians were coming down the road, they could naturally flow into the greenway of the Enclave, eventually make their way to State Street. Directly next to that, we got the opportunity to continue that rejuvenation with the Reef. And this building was a little bit different. The village is surrounded by bluffs on 3 sides, and in this location where the Reef is, that bluff is actually the edge of a former quarry. That really puts the Reef into this very secluded, quiet area of the community that was not a pedestrian-oriented location and was not a great spot to put residential use. But by doing it, we enhanced the connection of the east side of Wauwatosa down to State Street and eventually to the village. We were able to play with the materials a little bit more and create a little bit more modern styling, which is nice because when you're doing 2 different buildings directly across the street, you don't want to copy what you did the last time. So it was nice to be able to have some similar massing, similar volumes, but change the character of the buildings while they're directly next to each other. Interestingly enough about the Reef, it's anchored by 2 corridor buildings that kind of define the street edge. But as you get further into the site, we did lay it out with 4 2-story walk-up buildings. So while the Enclave is 4-story structures throughout, the Reef gives a variety of options to different renters, which I think helps its success.
2100, we're talking a site, used to have public access to it. What do I do with this site in order to make it more improved? Okay, because it was an office building with an adjacent parking lot. So we worked with creating an idea about building some apartments. We had to put it on a podium, and we had a lot of opposition from the neighborhood that was directly to the east because we were still going to need to use that alley to access the project. Eventually, we were able to get some of the neighborhood to come around because we're going to do a few things. One, we're going to widen the alley by a few feet. We're going to improve their backyard with some landscaping to soften up, that edge. And it actually turned out, it looks really nice. And it works that the alley was improved and repaved. So that building kind of evolved site-wise and sense-wise that way. The architecture of the building is a collaboration between what the owner had thought that they wanted. We had a talk with them, and I showed them some very, very simple sketches with some shadows, saying I just wanted to do this with the facade to create ins and outs, kind of create this Mobius strip of material around the building, and then anchor those with some what I call pylons, sort of like the Egyptian pylons where you go into the city. But that would be the brick forms that they were actually looking for. And so once we got this drawn up and from a sketch form into a building form, they were really excited about it. Building shape and parking shape created a flat roof element on the building that was basically at the first floor. But then there was some opposition to, do we put a green roof on this? Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District said, you know what? This is a great thing for stopping runoff to the river. So eventually there was a grant was allowed that was able to help pay for the green roof element. In addition to the green roof, the 2100 used LEED 4.0 principles in the design of the building products and the building interiors, and it won LEED Gold from the United States Green Building Council and was presented with an award of excellence.
One of the most exciting projects I got to work on was the Hoyt Park Beer Garden. For a number of years, Hoyt Park sat empty. When the Friends of Hoyt Park came to us with the idea of looking at activating the pool area and the former bathhouse, it was great to hear that they were interested in doing a beer garden. So the opportunity to take the bathhouse and create a nice beer garden, activate the outdoor portion of that bathhouse with the outdoor seating, the canopies, the cover, the fire pit, and the stage was a great way to take that sense of community that we've so strongly developed in the village and extend it along this parkway. And as you bike the trails of the parkway and you come up on the beer garden on a Friday or Saturday, there's not enough space for my family to sit. So that's always a good sign when all the tables are occupied and there's 300 people listening to good music and enjoying good beer. So that's an exciting piece to be a part of. And it really felt like it activated the parkway beyond just enjoying the river or using the pool. It made that space appropriate for all generations.
About 10 years ago, we had the opportunity to take on an interesting challenge from the point of view that it was a site and has the opportunity to be an important node in the development of North Avenue as it's developed around generally the corner of 92nd and North Avenue. An empty floral shop had been sort of the landmark that was there for many years. And we had a development client who was interested. He saw a vision for what could be done. Some sort of mixed-use building could be there. And so what we were able to put together is a 3-story building that has 2 floors of condominiums up above it. Very on the street, very urban kind of area. And then the ground floor is a retail commercial area. And we have a Colectivo Coffee in there, which has been one of their very successful ones in the area. In fact, it was so successful that they expanded it. And it gives a great opportunity for all those people in the area who, ironically, did not want that building there, and they fought hard to not have that building there. But I often see those same people in there enjoying a cup of coffee and visiting with their friends. So that's our work here in Tosa.